Well, in fact, the island has had three names in its history. Its first name was Ynys Metcot, and that means the island of the strong winds. A morning like this, you can understand why it was called that. Its second name was Lindisfarne, and no one seems to know the real reasons why it was called that. My own theory is that the Lyn was probably Llan, which is the Celtic name for church, and the Farn is the sort of boggy, swampy areas, or just the marshlands. And then the third name, Holy Island, doesn't come until really the Norman times, but they're named it after the Celtic monks that died when the Vikings came.
Come here, Cap. Come here. Yes, sir. Yeah, come here. I've been farming here about 12 years now since I finished the fishing. About 300 sheep and arable crops like spring barley. That's all I grow here, like spring barley. My grandfather and my father both farmed on this farm here, the same one.
Tell us about this weather, Robert.
Well, it's terrible this today. It's about the worst day we've had during the winter. Had this heavy snow shower this morning, like it's been drifting across the fields. You know, it's been just like fog going across the fields of the snow this morning. They were out feeding the sheep, but I have them all fed down. This is the finish for today, like.
When I was asked to move from my last parish to a town parish and refused to, I said the same thing to the bishop that I would say to the bishop if he asked me to move from Holy Island. I said I can't because there's no sky in the town. You can see in every direction, so you're very much aware that you're open. I enjoy the island, and it's part of my dreams, I think, as well as part of the reality of being here.
The wind on Holy Island is rather strange. We're one of the few places really exposed to the elements. And if you look at the priory and see the pitting on the stonework, you can see well what the wind does. We're the only priory and church that are sandblasted regularly by the strong wind. On Christmas Day this year, the wind was so strong that it blew the wings off an angel. This was an angel I was taking from the crib, a plaster cast one. And then on New Year's Day, the wind was so strong, it took a fishing boat out of the harbour that dragged its anchor. And this year, and we're now almost at the end of February, the fishermen have hardly ever been able to go out because of the strong winds.
Well, I've been a fisherman ever since I left school. I started off cooking mussels for a year and then been at this job now for 5 years now. I've been on 2 different boats. My partner and I bought our boat nearly 4 years ago now. It was one of the old islanders who showed me how to make the pots when I first moved here. We have in total about 280 pots. At the moment they're cluttering up my father's backyard. But come the summer they'll be in the sea in fleets of 30. It's not a very good living. It pays the bills, but if say I got married and did eventually have a family, I would find it very, very difficult on the wage I do get. Well, if I was to leave the fishing, I would leave the island. If we had to leave the boat and finish the job, I would leave the island.
So what's this basket you're working on, George?
Mussel basket, which we use for collecting mussels during the winter season. This has to be done to reinforce them as they don't last very long. It's not done to them.
Are they good mussels from Holy Island?
Top quality, the only fault being that they do have barnacles on which they stop the sail. Puts people off for some reason or another. But actually the quality of the mussel itself is excellent. Started fishing mussels nearly 50 years ago, really. I was 50 years until about 3 years ago when EEC regulations came in and stopped us fishing for mussels, catching mussels. Well, they had a meeting a few weeks ago in Berwick here, and they decided that after various tests that the mussels we've been catching all the time are perfectly clear in any case. Already met any regulations. Well, it's allowed me to start fishing for mussels again, but unfortunately the markets are now gone and it's very difficult to try and find markets again now.
And how many people used to make a living fishing mussels on the island?
Oh, at one time during the winter time, there'd be 8-9 people mostly catching mussels.
And today?
No one other than myself.
Walked over the last week from Carlisle. There have been 2 other groups, one coming from Lanark and one coming from Hexham, and each group has walked about 100 miles. This morning, Good Friday morning, we've all arrived together at the foot of the Holy Island Causeway and walked across the old pilgrim's route, which takes you across the sands. It takes an hour and 20 minutes to walk from the mainland to the island, and we do this in bare feet mainly. It's a old Catholic tradition, I suppose, the penitential thing. Holy Island's a very ancient Christian site. It's the place where much of Northumberland, and in fact a lot of England, was converted to Christianity from in the first place. The other reason we come here is actually for the same reason that Cuthbert and Aidan came here, which is that it's secluded, you're away from the hustle bustle of the everyday world, and it gives you time to reflect on the spiritual side of life.
A lot of people are looking for a holy place, but my job is to get them to see that where they live is just as holy. And that's often what pilgrimage is about. They discover that the journey itself is the real pilgrimage, not the arriving. And the real arriving is when they get back home and it's different.
How many more still to lamb?
There's about 30 odd here.
Still to go?
Yeah.
So how many lambs have you had so far?
No idea. I'll tell you the end of this year sometime.
100?
Oh, more than that. I was more than that out now. I was like, there's more than 300 out now, I think. Kind of keep check on them when you're lamb like this many ways. It's impossible.
And what about the hours that you have to put in?
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Did you do it in your shift with your wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's usually out here at 4 o'clock in the morning. I start at 4 o'clock till about 10 o'clock at night maybe.
Do you have any problems staying awake in the middle of the night if you have to watch through? It must be difficult.
Sometimes. Not allowed any drink. You get used to it after the first few days. After 2 or 3 days, you get, it's okay. It's no bother. Like.
My dad's got a farm, yeah, and when I told him of my idea, he agreed to let me use these 2 fields. They're all a mixture of animals, both animals that's common on the farm now, and ones that you don't see. There's a lot of rare breeds as well. If the tide is open all day, you can have quite a long day because you've got to have everything ready to be open at 10. And maybe you can start. We feed them twice a day. They're fed in the morning, they're fed at night. So by the time you can start feeding at night, if the tide's been open until sort of 5 and 6 o'clock, and you start again, and then you've got to come back sort of 9 or 10 o'clock in the summer and start shutting them all up. It's about 11 o'clock before you get finished. This is the 3rd season we've been open.
Hello there. Could we have 1 adult and 2 children, please? And 2 bags of 2-legged feed.
On a good day, if the weather's fine, we get 200 to 300 in the summer holidays, usually, or a bank holiday.
Right, in we go. Thanks.
If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I tried it, but I don't think, I want to live here for the rest of my life. I like living here, but if I found anywhere else I'd like to live just as much, then I wouldn't mind moving. There's not a lot of work on the island, unless you're working in a hotel or something like that, or a fisherman. You need to actually stay here. Oh, do you know those pigs?
Is up, there are less people about. And when there are less people about, the island is quieter. And the island goes about its own business then as well. So it's more a real village, it's more a real community when the tide has enclosed it. I like it better then. I mean, I like the people that come, but I like it far better when we're a real island. There's about 150 people live on the island. First folk that everyone would expect to be here are the fishermen, but there are very few fishermen, and it's unfortunately a very dwindling and pressurised industry. Their catches are poor and their way of life is really quite hard for the rewards they get these days. Then the next people that you'd notice are the people that run the hotels and the boarding houses and the folk who run the shops, and they're very much part of the tourist industry. Their catch is a lot better than the fishermen's, and their way of life, I hope, is improving. We have a school with the amazing amount of 2 children in it. When the tide closes the island, the school children here stay here. As soon as it opens, they go across to another school on the mainland. There are 2 farms on the island, actually quite big farms, but their farming is mainly nowadays sheep and malted barley, and the barley that is grown on the island is used for making whiskey.
This garden is one of the very few Jekyll gardens apparently that's left, true Jekyll garden. The idea is to try and restore the Gertrude Jekyll garden back to what she had it, other than the fact that we won't be putting fruit on the wall or growing up the walls as she had, but we will be putting different vegetables in, the type where they've got the lovely coloured leaves. Well, the garden was really designed to be seen in July and August. This is when Mr. Hudson, the first owner, had the old fort converted to the holiday home. This is when he came for his holidays in July and August. The garden's got to bloom then. Weather permitting, it does work. The first year I started, we had the flowers coming out early because so much sunshine. You can't control the weather. But normally, yeah, to see the garden as it should be seen, July, August, beginning of September. Well, I'm part-time in the garden, 1.5 days a week. The rest of my job, I'm caretaker in the castle, which involves being either room steward, cashier, and talking to the public as they come round to see the property itself. I love the island. It's what I find, it's so quiet, and you adapt your life to the tides. I class it as no different to someone living in a remote village where their life is evolved around, say, the local bus once a week. You just adapt your life to the tide, and it's a grand life. Grand.
alarm goes off at 3:30 in the morning. Then I come down to harbour about 4 o'clock.
Hallo. So where to do it there for the morning, get the crew ready.
We found nearly 6 weeks ago that the stern gun was leaking. And we couldn't work out what was happening, so took the shaft out, and it was very, very heavily scored. So took it out altogether, took it away, hoped to get it rebuilt, but it told us it was knackered. So this is our second day back at sea since we got it back. We have lost 6 weeks now. 6 weeks where I could have been making some money, but we've just not been able to do anything.
And how much does the repair cost?
Nearly £1,000. What do you do? Get it done and hope you can pay it back in the summer. It's been a very poor day today. I think there's one lobster now. A box of crabs, slack box of crabs. Hopeless. Very, very poor. Well, you look forward to the better times. You look forward to August.
Do they give you a fair price, or do you have to argue a bit?
No, there's no argument. You just take what you're given. There's a set price for it. Like it varies between different sheep. But we've got a bit of a mixture here, like Alison's from the farm and that.
It's excellent.
Always
beautiful.
very attractive.
You'd enjoy very much.
We like to come up here to see the varying old-fashioned shops and see the ruins.
It's really beautiful landscape.
Well, it's so peaceful, and the main thing that we're interested in is the birds. It's wonderful.
It's nice to be able to come somewhere where you're not fighting for space, and it makes a nice change, very relaxing.
Nice nature, nice castles.
Very different from Czechoslovakia.
Very different from Czechoslovakia.
If we want solitude, we come and stay here. Everyone gets off the island and the tide comes up.
It's beautiful.
And that's it. It's beautiful.
You just have to stand and listen. There's nothing, is there? It's just heaven. I've just said to my friend up there, if I could live here, I would. But I'm not that lucky.
I've got a baby wood pigeon. It fell out of a tree when it was windy the other day, and someone brought it to us. I didn't find it. Some children brought it.
What's that you're feeding it there?
I'm feeding it bread just now because it's quick, but normally, you know, we mix up some feed for it. And it's living. We've got it. We're about 4 or 5 days.
Well, today is the 1st of July. In July, the flowers, most of the flowers will start to bloom, and also being a holiday period, July and into August, I expect there'll be a great influx of visitors into the garden. You've got to split your time between working in the garden and talking to people at the same time. I find the main trouble is when I go on a holiday. If I have a week or a fortnight's holiday, I come back and a lot of work I've done in the past has all got to be done again in the present because the weeds have marched on. They don't go on holiday. Gardening helps me unwind. When you're talking to the public and on your feet all day, I prefer coming over here and doing an hour or two, just basically pottering around, a few weeds, putting plants in, watering or whatever. And it's my way of unwinding, as opposed to nipping into the pub. I'll go there later.
It can never be a negative thing for people to come to Holy Island. It's like the tide. It needs to ebb and flow. We're lucky we're tidal. We can get rid of them. And I say that with great respect to them, because without them, we wouldn't survive today. They come in a great flow like the tide does. And if there's an extraordinarily high tide, that is damaging.
The causeway is good, I'm sure of that. I'm sure without the causeway we wouldn't get enough people coming today. But it would be nice if we had a drawbridge occasionally. Of course we have, because the tide comes in.
I wish it was winter. I never ever wished so much it was winter. I don't like the winter because I like light nights, but now I'm tired. I'm looking forward to shorter days. I must admit, I am tired. Yesterday, I said that was it. I was going to shut the farm. I was never going to do it again. I had enough. Yeah, I did. I said that yesterday. But it's been horrible. Last Friday, we had a dog and she took poorly and she just collapsed and died. And then yesterday, one of the ponies, she twisted her gut and the vet had to put her down as well. Not very nice. It's something you never get used to either. Doesn't matter how often it happens. It's horrible.
You still think it's the battery, eh?
Take it off. Get the damn thing off. Oh, here.
Not a very good time for this to happen, Robert.
I'm afraid not.
What's the forecast?
It's all right today, but it's going to come in showers later on. Well, like tomorrow, later on in the week. So I'd like to have a day today.
But look at inside him.
Got to hook up by Longstand, Julian, on all the islands. He's just got here as well. Still got right up.
I like the fishing better in the summer when you're catching, but getting up on a nice calm morning and with the sun just starting to rise and going out and knowing that you're going to get something. But the winter time when you can hear the wind howling, I don't like it at all. Well, you put an elastic band on the lobsters, so when you put them in the boxes and send them away, they don't bite each other. They can kill each other if they get too vicious. We just do this to protect them. Lobster's quite a wild animal. If you've got a few of them in one place, it can get quite nasty. Like that one. The best one this year was just beginning of last week, where we got 94 lobsters. That's been the best this year. The best one we had was 102. I think that was 21st of August 1992, if I remember rightly.
How many did you finally get?
54 altogether.
You pleased?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right.
A lobster has usually been going down to a bottom price for us of about £2.80 a pound at the bottom, and at Christmas we get £6 a pound for them. It may sound ludicrous because if you go into any fish shop and ask for lobster, you're paying at least £15 or £20 a pound for it any time of the year. But we seem to fare very badly for them. But a crab, price of a crab hasn't changed in 20 years. getting the same amount for them 20 years ago that they are today. So we're more or less giving them away.
I like to come out early in the morning because it gives me my quiet hour. Because often during the day there isn't that quiet hour. That little island has always been a sort of haven of peace for the people of Holy Island who have found life busy. On record, Aidan and Cuthbert both spent some time there, and it's now called Cuthbert's Island. Cuthbert had a little retreat there, and so whenever life was ever so busy, he escaped for a while to Cuthbert's Island. Obviously, it's a tidal island, so when the tide goes out, he wasn't as safe as he would like to be. So from there, in time, he would move to Innerfarn, a much larger island, but not accessible except by boat at all times. On the island today there's a remains of a medieval chapel where the cross is, and on the southern tip, to the left of the cross, there's also the remains of a Celtic cell. So there are signs of worship on that island for 1300 years.
Someone once asked me if the Lindisfarne Gospels had anything new in them, and I said no, because they are just Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. But they were copied out by one man, Edfrith, and he copied them out to the glory of God and memory of Cuthbert. And in doing so, he left us one of the most precious books in the world. This book now is in the British Library. Every gospel has the artist's impression of the writer of that gospel. Then there's a page which is called a carpet page against each gospel, which is very Eastern in design. There's also an initial page, which is the beginning of each gospel. The initial page of one gospel has on it 10,000 red dots. Just imagine doing that. I see in the interlacing patterns, if you follow them round, they're forever going over, just like life does, and then it goes under. It's a bit like an expression of the tides. Sometimes the tide ebbs, sometimes it flows. It's a bit like the days, sometimes they're bright, sometimes they're dark. And this is the interweaving pattern. And if you follow it round and round, you discover it has no end. And that's a statement from the Celts about their belief about life. And death is only one of the goings under to rise out again at the other side.
You tire exactly the same as plants. You get to September, October, and you're thinking, well, it's nearly the end of the season, and that's the time to rest, build your strength up, and prepare for the Christmas coming up, and then after that you're preparing once more for the tourist invasion starting at Easter. So it's a cycle, the same as the plant system, I suppose.
Yes, it's a special time of the year because it is the time of the year when everything seems to come to its fullness, and yet it's just before it turns. We're preparing the church for tonight by getting it ready, putting produce from the gardens into church. Once it's ready, we will give thanks for all that we've received this year. Not only in our gardens, but in our lives.
See,
I don't know how you've done it.
just not on the straight and narrow, but
Well, mine are actually blown to bits and the wind spoiled them. Good few people bring flowers and fruit, and likely crab as well. Oh, shit. One either side. Either side. Good.
The harvest went very well. Quite pleased with it. Couldn't think what happened this spring of the year with the storms and that. Well, it was blowing out and that. And we'd average 2 tonnes to the acre maybe. It all went for malting. Very happy with. Have a little something here for to celebrate it with. For taking it to church.
We thank you, O God, for day and night, for summer and winter, for seed time and harvest, all the gifts of nature. We thank you, O God, your presence, your creation, your love and redemption. We thank you, O God. We pray for this island, all who work here and live here, all who visit here. Bless, O Lord, this island, this holy island. Make it a place of peace and love. Make it a place of joy and light.
Quick, put it on to Chris.
Keep it on, keep it on.
Yes.
take a wee bit of getting started with it. Hello, Bill.
Hello, Dave.
I'll take the cap off.
When we were small, all we used to collect, you know, for the last sort of month before the bonfire, collect all everyone's rubbish out of their gardens and drag it down. But yeah, and all the fishermen collect all their stuff up and bring it along. I think there's a boat or something been on tonight. It's just seasons, isn't it, really? Like spring's all everything new, and then the summer's all the visitors, and then this time of year it's just all winding down, and I don't like the weather this time of year, that's the only thing.